Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside of their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
All right, everybody, we are here with First Responder Financial Freedom, episode 40. You have myself, Tyler Thrush, Mike Webb, and our guest today, Matt Salvatore. Matt, if you can, just kind of give us a little bit of background of what you do as far as your day job, what you do on the investing side, and then we can just take it from there.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Matthew Salvatore. I'm a New York State Park Police Officer, K-9 Unit, explosive detection. I've been in the field for about 18 years, W-2, and I really just started getting into investment, multifamily investment properties over the last 2 or 3 years. Currently, I own 5 places in New London and Groton, Connecticut. There's a big housing market there, military base, Coast Guard Academy, a couple colleges. It's close to the water. It's a transient hub for people to go to Boston or New York. So
nice. So you said that you have been a police officer for 18 years, you said?
Yep.
And then the last 2, so what changed in the last 2 to where you started to pursue investing, and in this case specifically real estate investing?
I guess real estate has always been kind of part. My grandfather was an electrician, and he always had a couple houses, multifamilies or single families, and that really got me started into learning and knowing about how you could optimize real estate.
So for the first 16 years of your police department career, did you just kind of like put that in the back of your noggin, and like what was the catalyst to kind of get the like spark to start buying those places?
It really, actually, COVID really did it for me. It's, just the time spent at this W-2 job, and just, you're not going to get rich in a W-2 job, especially when it's an hourly rate, and I just realized that the more time I spent there, the less time I was away from anything or everything I really wanted to do. So it was like, how can I optimize my deferred comprehension plan? How can all this overtime I work is just going to material things that,
And taxes.
Yeah. And taxes. Exactly. That actually, you know what, now you say that, yeah, that was like my big factor why. It's just, you work 800-900 hours of overtime, and then, 3 months of the year you're paying, you're not getting paid because you're paying it back in taxes.
So you mentioned a couple of things. So, well, first off, I think there's a lot of folks that can relate to that, working, especially the last couple of years with the COVID clinics and setting them up and vaccinations and all that stuff. They were just throwing money at the problem. And, it was kind of like that with all the extra stuff after 9/11, with all the extra hazmat training, all the extra WMD training. They were just throwing money at it, and just kind of like the police department, I'm assuming the firefighters were just eating up all these extra things they were throwing at us, whether it was training and workshops and these new responsibilities. But I guess eventually we all have that, or most of us have that eureka moment where it's like, wait a second, I'm working an extra 3 to 4 months worth of work, and half of it's going away in taxes. Something's got to change. So obviously you had that moment, but how did you go through like going from like, this is a great idea, because this is like the big leap. Hey, we all know we should do something more besides trading time for money. How did you get the confidence and the education to make that jump, besides your grandfather's, electrician and whatnot, to go buy something?
It really, you got to take, Warren Buffett said, educated risks, if you can take educated risks, and, it's all what your appetite is. I mean, you know, during COVID, you know, you had a lot of uprisings and, you know, just, you know, putting yourself out there in these dangerous positions, you know, gears you up to just deal with a tenant, you know, and taking the risk. I mean, what's the worst thing could possibly happen? You know, you got to evict him, you know, really. I mean, honestly, I mean, you know, if you're a police officer or a firefighter, you could, you know, you could get hurt or injured in a matter of seconds, you know, and for what? For an hourly rate when, you know, you're getting an appreciating asset and you just got to manage people.
Yeah. First off, totally agree with that. You know, but did you like read any particular books, podcasts? Obviously, you referenced Warren Buffett, who you had to live under a rock to not at least have heard that name before. But was there any sort of training that you went through?
I mean, you know, I can say, with that being said, I took prior to Corona, or as we like to call it in New York, is Rona. We had a training opportunities in a Riskin in New York, where the DHS has a huge building and they go run you through, excuse me, scenarios, you know, just, you know, everyday, you know, stuff that you would deal with. And it just, you know, the training with the police department really got me geared up to take, you know, level up, as they say, you know, just putting yourself out there and being able to just like, you know, do the day-to-day stuff and go the extra mile and put in for those extra things really got me, you know, thinking and, you know, opening up doors for me.
So you said you have 5 places now, or 5 rentals in the
Yeah.
last 2 years. So could you maybe walk us through that? Like how did you find them? How did you underwrite them? How did you fund them, and kind of what they look like now?
Sure. I live in New York, and New York is very expensive. And was just banging my head against the wall here. I had deals in contract, and at the last second, you know, people are just scooping them up all cash, you know. And then, you know, I was listening to podcasts. I think, you know, Bigger Pockets was a big one, and you know, David Green was like, you got to go outside of your market, you know. So I went to New Hampshire, looked in New Hampshire. Their market was exploding. I like New Hampshire just because you can bring your retirement there. A couple other states, Florida, I think, and not be taxed. I think it's federal tax. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. And I was just looking around, just on Zillow every day, looking. And then finally, I was like, I went to school in Rhode Island. I live in Long Island. You can take the ferry right to Connecticut. And the market was like way below, in Connecticut, was way below anything that was around. I mean, you know, it's shot up exponentially in the last year or two since I've been buying, but still, you know, it was, you know, a perfect opportunity. I jumped on a fourplex right in Groton, Connecticut. They have the submarine base there, military installments. Pfizer's right down the street. You know, it's right by the water. Like I said earlier, it's a transit hub. There's a train that goes through there, the ferries, and you can go to Boston or New York from that port.
So that fourplex, did you find it on the MLS? Did you market for it? Were you just cruising Zillow? How did you find the property?
I was just cruising Zillow, and they were like, go big or go home. You know, the more doors, the easier. And, you know, because in my mind, I was like, a duplex, you know, you got one person that doesn't start paying, or, you know, whatever, a vacancy. And it's like, all right, now I was scraping by. And I you know, and it's really, the more the more you have the aptitude to really take on more, the more you just, you know, can, you know, take on, really, if you have the right mindset.
And then as far as like financing goes, and you don't have to get too detailed, but did you use private money? Did you get a conventional loan?
Well, I took a HELOC out on my primary,
Okay.
and that was the down payment for that fourplex. And, through my real estate agent, I can, I'll go back a little bit. I called on a threeplex in New London, spoke to her. It was in contract. It was this, home run, beautiful place. It's actually, I don't know, kind of jump ahead. I own it now, but at the time it kind of fell through, but come full circle, I ended up getting it. So everything happens for a reason. As one door shuts, another door opens. So I took the HELOC out, got hooked up with this real estate agent. And for the real estate agents out there, she was the only one that was like punctual. Like if you call, I've find this more often than not. You call a real estate agent, they never get back to you. I mean, especially in the field that we're in, it's like, if my boss is yelling at me or I need this or I need that, it's right away. It's not like, oh, I'll do it in 3 days or whatever.
What?
So
yeah, most agents suck. And my business partner's an agent and I tell him that. And it's like, you also have to think for the last couple of years, like they've had some serious tailwinds. So I think you might start to see some of that change, or some of those people might get out of the business. But yes, I totally agree. It's not just up in New York and Connecticut. Like it's down here too. And I don't know about Tyler, but
100%.
man, unbelievable. But sorry, keep rolling. So you end up scooping this deal up also.
Yeah. So I took the HELOC out, went through, I repositioned the place. They're all, if you're in the Northeast, you got to deal with the snow, the hurricane stuff. It's all older houses. So there's maintenance that you have to it's just part of the game. You know what I mean? And really what it boils down to is like, you're going to have to do it. You put the money aside and you do it. That's really what it comes down to as far as that. I mean, some people have different business models or whatever is like newer, or, I mean, some stuff's going to break all the time. You're always going to run into problems, and I had this saying, and I still do, is like, there's no problems, it's just solutions, and if you have that mindset to look at it like that, it just comes in and goes out the other way, and, you just solve the problem.
And that's the big thing too, because people always are ready to jump and say, "Oh, I have a friend who bought a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, but this didn't work out for him, and that's the reason that you or I should never buy rental property again." And it's so funny because that stuff happens, and like you said, most of the time, we're using the positive cash flow that we're generating in order to finance those repairs or to pay for those repairs. So essentially, your tenants are paying for a lot of them. And over time, it's just going to be such a phenomenal investment. It's funny to hear you say Zillow, because we've come out of two of the hottest years that I can remember forever. And you were able to source deals off of Zillow. And it sounds like those first two, at least that you mentioned, were great deals. I like how you mentioned all of the transit hub, the Coast Guard. All of these seem like a great place with long-term rentals, short-term rentals, furnished rentals. There's so many different avenues you can pursue. So I think that's huge. But everybody wants to talk about the one time it did not work out in rental properties. They don't want to talk about all the good things and all the people who have become very wealthy, or at least, wealthy in far as, hey, I got 5 properties bought and paid for by the time I retire my W-2 job.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, it's really, you gotta take it as it comes, I feel. And, I feel like anytime you don't win, as they say, or you fail, the failing part is where you learn stuff. That's how I feel. When you're just winning all the time, you're like, oh, this is great. I got this mindset. I'm just winning all the time. And it's great to be like that. But, in failure, I win. That's the way I look at it, because I'm learning something about myself, about the people I can trust or not trust. It's just,
you're either getting paid or you're getting an education.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think, Mike, you had a couple of things that I remember hearing your podcast. I mean, when you were interviewed on Bigger Pockets about, something that didn't go right, and you just learned from it.
Oh yeah. That's virtually any deal. There's something that doesn't go right, like that's just the way life is. And, we talk about the guys that just, chirp at the kitchen table or maybe in the police barracks, I don't know, maybe it's the coffee pot or what, but they always have a comment about, see, told you shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have done this. And I think Tyler, what'd you call them, Tyler? The yibbits or
the yeah butters?
Yeah.
They always want to say
butters.
yeah, but
but it didn't work out. So like, and that's a thing. Like, and I think a lot of guys in this field or girls in this field underestimate how resourceful they are. And this line of work, whether it be police or fire, emergency medicine, whatever the case is, usually most of those folks are pretty resourceful. If you don't believe me, just think about a bunch of bored firemen or bored cops. They get really resourceful, maybe not in a positive way, but like you figure it out. Like somebody doesn't pay their rent, you figure it out. A roof breaks or a roof leaks, you figure it out. Like you figure these things out. So I would like to, maybe if we could, you hinted on not hinted, you said you bought this other deal, but like the first one. So you found it on Zillow. Yep. You financed it through a HELOC, which basically you just took, just for the folks that maybe aren't familiar, like you had equity in your primary residence, right? So, like just to get super basic, like the house is worth 300 and you only owed 100, you had $200,000 worth of equity. So therefore you might be able to get a line of credit for 150 or whatever the case may be. So you took a portion of that line of credit, used it as the down payment on this fourplex, correct?
Yep.
Do you mind walking through the numbers, like what the fourplex looked like? Because you said you repositioned it, which is virtually whether you reposition it with physical improvements or managerial improvements or whatever the case may be, sometimes it's a little bit of both. Maybe what that looks like.
I kind of feel it, and it's everything's a work in progress too, because someone setting up their house or they're implementing whatever programs or whatever they're using could be different, or you might know more or less, and you just take from what you know best. I mean, I assimilated to like I'm an FTO, which is field training officer. So when recruits come out of the academy, I'm their babysitter. I mean, pretty much, to make sure that they don't do something silly or, and
I can relate. I was their babysitter while they were in the academy. So
okay.
I know what that's like.
You got to kind of beat them up though, right?
Oh yeah. Phase 1, they get beat up, not physically, just figuratively for all you crazy people out there.
Yeah. I've been finding a lot where, it's owner occupied. A lot of people, when they're going to sell and when I'm looking at stuff, if it's a duplex, one side's open, so you can get that, that really get your foot in the door as far as loans are concerned, as far as a first-time home buyer buying an investment property, so you don't have to put the 20 to 25% down. And so one of the properties was vacant, and it was 3 were full. I still have one of the tenants in the fourplex. So when I say I adjusted things, there was a 2-car garage. I started renting out the 2-car garage. It's split down the middle. I rent one side for $200, the other side for $200. Now I'm grossing, $400 more a month than I was when I bought the place. So, that add value was paying my HELOC, which, the introductory rate was very low. It was 0.99 for 8 months, so it was like a home run. So, I was cash flowing and really, I mean, as you guys know, you got to stress, it all comes down to the numbers, really comes down to the numbers. I mean, that's the only thing that matters, really. So, all this other stuff like, the roof is leaking or the hot water heater doesn't work or whatever. Okay. If the numbers work and you can substantiate paying for it, I mean, who cares, and you got a network where you have someone to come fix it or can go facilitate someone fixing it. I mean, it's just a little hiccup in the road. So, I did, when I bought the place, like I was saying earlier, the deferred maintenance, it had cedar shake siding. I don't know, we're in the Northeast, that's like a big New England thing. Cedar shake, it's just like, just these shingles that go on the siding of the house. And if you don't take care of them, it's maintenance, painting, staining, whatever you prefer. I mean, now they're getting into a lot of the plastic stuff, but I needed to, the insurance company, for them to insure me, said right off the bat, I had to replace some of the cedar shake. So I knew that was part of it. And, I was willing to take the risk, but I just wanted to get that first deal so bad, because I had gotten beat out. I literally had one in contract. I personally drove the contract to the seller's office, and like a day and a half later,
Get
Friday
some.
night, yeah. And they're like, "Hey, listen, they're going with somebody else." I'm like, I was like that, I was just like on cloud nine, and then to have that, to get ripped right out from under you, it was an awesome learning experience, and that happened a couple of times. So, I mean, now looking back on the fourplex, because of certain circumstances, I don't know. I'm in a spot where I know I should keep it, but I kind of want to get rid of it, just because I had another avenue where I started buying in a smaller, not a small, like in one section. And makes it so much easier when you're not traveling from house to house, or, storing stuff here, or, this is me personally and my self-management type things. So it's really what it boils down to is, the numbers, 110%. And with that being said, the time, and really, honestly, that's the only thing that we truly possess is time,
Binds
and
us
if
all
you,
equally, right?
yeah, I mean, if you can optimize the time that you have, then, and I feel that real estate and, having multifamilies that was my jam.
So Matt, are you doing the work yourself? I mean, you mentioned the cedar shake. Was that a repair you did, or is that something you
No,
hired out?
no. I mean, it's trial and error, I do some stuff when I can, but it's I have to hop on the ferry to get there, or I have to drive to New York City, which is a
That sounds fun.
nightmare. Yeah, no. I did it a couple of times. I was like, why am I not just taking the ferry? So, and the
Yeah.
ferries, it's an hour and 20 minutes. I can sit there, go on my laptop, do some numbers, make some calls, square things away. And, it's relaxing actually. So I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
And so
But
those other. Oh, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say it's not something you want to do all the time, though, right?
Honestly, I love it there. I do truly love it there. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever heard of like Mystic, Connecticut. There's just a lot of like tradition. I mean, when you look at the houses there too, the architecture and just like the way stuff was built back in the day to what it is now. I mean, you know, where I live in New York on Long Island, and it's pretty affluent here. I mean, people talk about the Hamptons and this. I mean, it's a shame because these people with more money than I have at this point, they'll buy a house and rip it down. And, someone took a long time, to build it with their hands. And when stuff was like, people could take a step back and were proud of what they built. And now it's just like, they throw a house up in a month here, and it's just rip down, put up, rip down, put up. And, it's like, how you like maybe change your clothes or whatever here, they'll change their house like that in a 1 month span. And it's crazy to see. It's amazing to me. So, but I enjoy going there. I associated to like when I was growing up as a kid in New York to that area. It's not fully developed yet. And it, it has potential, and that's what you really got to see too, is the potential.
Sure. So you aren't doing all the repairs, you're doing some things. How often do you make a trip out to your places?
I mean, it depends. I mean, it really depends on what I got going on, who I have to go see,
Like once a
So,
quarter, once a month.
Maybe once every month and a half. I mean, if
Okay.
I just go because I want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to check up on people. I talk to them on the phone, all my, my residents, it's like, I talk to them all the time, and, I just like going there. I enjoy it. Another big part of that is I got through my real estate agent, I got hooked up to my mentor, really. And he just likes having me there, and we talk, and he shows me stuff. He shows me around the community. I network, when I'm there, and you got to put a name with a face. So people are like, oh, that's him, or that's my landlord, or
Sure. So
yeah.
you're self-managing, obviously, your
Yeah.
units. Is that something you plan to continue?
I don't want to. It's something that it's something that I'm learning as I go. I
Yeah.
don't want to, but I felt like, in the beginning, like I felt like I needed to do the stuff. I was fixing stuff. I was going there fixing stuff. I was going, bringing stuff. I'm a big guy of like finding a good deal on Facebook Market or Craigslist. So if I know I need something, like I just got a picture window that they wanted to charge me like $800 for, you know. I found it on Facebook Marketplace for $75, brand new window, So, but now through time, I've made a network there, and I have people that I can call to go and take care of this stuff, Does it
Yeah.
always get
And back to our thing a little bit ago, like time, that's what we all have equal amounts of. And I've gone through, like, I think all phases. Like I used to have like a car, and I used to load up my push mower into the trunk of the car, and it wouldn't fit all the way. And I'd bungee cord it down, and I would drive it over, and I'd mow the yards and stuff. And, I remember I was installing all the electrical outlets and plate covers. And now I'm like, I literally have places that are like a half hour away I've never even gone to, and I've owned it for a year. Like I've never even stepped foot in it. And it's like, so it's like kind of gone the gamut. And now I'm just like, it removes a lot of the mental barriers. And I know Tyler does it this way, where like now I feel pretty confident that I could buy something in New York or Connecticut or Idaho and never leave my desk right here. Not that I wouldn't have to do things, but I think, and myself included, like I only bought in a certain pocket of this town because that's what my comfort tolerance was at the time. And now, I've realized, like, well, I have places that I'm buying. Like we bought a place last week. I've never been in it, and it's like, well, if I can do that with stuff that's like right here, why can't I do that with the United States being like your fishing pond? It doesn't need to be just this little geographical area. So, and I think maybe it's David, it's like live where you want, but invest where it makes sense. And that's so true. I just happen to get lucky enough that like there's a lot of really good cash flow markets within an hour of where I live. So, but about the window, sorry, that was a really long way to say that. Like I used to do all that shit with the windows, and I used to have a garage full of stuff. And then my wife would be like, what is all this crap in our garage? And then I would get it all cleaned out. And, I figured out like, it's one thing if you need like a window, especially something like that. But like, I was buying tile and kitchen sinks and you name it. Like, and eventually I'm like, I probably have lost, damaged, or by the time I figure out what it cost me to pick it up, travel, rent this, rent that, store it, what gets stolen, what gets broke, what I forget about, I'm probably about just about even. So I'm going to quit wasting this much time doing this. But, now I just like to buy houses off Facebook Marketplace, no more windows.
I guess, that's what the progression is though, and that was kind of like my point, was like, I felt like I had to go through each step to really learn, what worked, what didn't work, or if I had to go tell somebody like, hey, listen, I need you to go rent this place. just go through the process, go through all the applications of getting applicants in and like doing their background and stuff like that. Like I just wanted to learn every part. And, in the beginning, I was like, well, what am I good at? What am I good at? And I always revert back to like managing people because, in the field, the police or fire field, it's like you're coming into a lot of the time the most stressful part of someone's life, whether it be an accident, whatever. And that's what you're doing on a second by second basis of like mitigating the stress for these people. And, I just felt like I could do that by, and just kind of stretch the timeline out to where, I could just talk to, a tenant, on the phone, and just figure things out. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. I mean, just figuring it out and moving forward.
At the end of the day, we problem solve, and I just always think back to the OODA loop. Like that's what this business, that's what this career constantly is. It's just observing, orienting, deciding, and acting, and just repeating. And if you think about it simplistically like that, now it doesn't always feel that simple, but that's all it is. Whether you're managing tenants, managing deals, managing finances, managing the job, it's all the same. So Tyler, it looked like you were going to.
Well, no, I was going to agree with both of you guys because my back's killing me. I was going to agree with both of you. It's funny because you don't show up to a structure fire for us, right? And we're like, oh no, the house is on fire. What are we going to do? It's like, okay.
Well, we got some of those that do.
True. But we go into our process, right? Somebody's got to get water. Somebody's got to pull a line. Somebody's got to, get certain tools. And like you said, super stressful situation for the people there. It's high intensity for us, but you go into action. You've trained for this. You know what to do. You don't have time to be like, oh man, I can't believe this house is on fire. I really wish it wasn't on fire. It's, hey, let's go put this thing out. And it's the same thing. But the reaction is different with a lot of people when the water heater goes out, the roof starts to leak. We freak out as opposed to go into that same, hey, it's a leak. I got to get it fixed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Just execute. And I think that's why we're all well suited for this is, like you said, we deal with problems on a daily basis. That's all we do. So when it comes to this, it's like, is this really life or death? Absolutely not. So let's use the same decision-making process and implement it. And I think that's why a lot of us have less fear than a lot of people when it comes to investing because we put our lives on the line a lot too. So it's like, hey, this may seem scary to some people, but what's the worst thing that can happen? I can lose a couple bucks. And,
I'll probably butcher it a little bit, but Grant Cardone had a thing one time, and it was he owned an apartment complex, and the property manager called him like freaking out because they found somebody dead, like in the parking lot or in a trunk or something. And he's like, was it a tenant? Did they pay their rent? No? Okay, then it's not really that big of a problem. Like, okay, that might sound a little cold and harsh, but like basically just trying to illustrate the point. Like you said about the water heater, like who cares? Like that's such, I remember reading somewhere, hearing somewhere, my guys always joke with me because I always say like just the other day or a couple shifts ago, and they'll be like, that was 2 years ago. Like, whatever, I would say 90% of the issues you run into in real estate investing can be fixed with probably about 3 phone calls and 15 minutes. Because like, say I have a financing issue, I could probably call Tyler and he'll be like, hey man, look at this, this, and this, or call this guy. Or if I have a hot water heater go out, I can be like, okay, cool. I don't even have to call. I can text my plumber. Here's the address. Here's the tenant's name. Take care of it. Is it going to cost money? Yes. But that's everything, right? And when you start looking at like your phone as not necessarily a consumable device, but something you can actually use for creation. So like you take the money, you take the phone, you fix the problem. They're just tools. That's all they are. When you start kind of like reframing it as that, you can fix all these problems for the most part. Now, every now and then, myself included, the emotion kind of clouds it a little bit. And like you said, you were on cloud 9, you hand delivered the contract, and then all of a sudden you get kicked in the guts and we're going with somebody else. Like, that still happens, but
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes overcomplicate everything, including this business. So how many units do you have now, Matt? You said 5. So is it, but I thought you said it was a 4-plex and then a 3 unit. And I'm not very good at math, but that's more than 5.
Yeah. I have a 4-plex, 2 3-families, and 2 duplexes. So that's 5 houses.
Okay, that's 14 units.
Yeah, 14 units.
Okay, well, that's pretty good in 2 years.
Yeah.
In a very, very hyper competitive market, and were all of those plucked off the MLS?
Oh no, just the first one. And as I alluded to before, my real estate agent, and it's 110% true about how they say your net worth is your network, and being in the fields that we are in, that it may not come easy to a lot of people, but I feel like it's our job to go talk to people in EMS and fire, police. And that's what it comes down to. You got to have the fortitude to just have tough conversations, or talk to someone, call someone up. I mean, procrastination is a killer, that I feel. So
I totally agree. So first off, that's awesome. Like, to me, most people are always waiting for their first deal, waiting, and just, I don't know what they're waiting for. But to get 14 units in 2 years, like, that's impressive. So congratulations. Like,
yeah, thank you.
And even if they're not like all perfect home run deals, because I'm sure every single one of them was, like, you learn, and you, like we said earlier, you're either getting paid or you're getting an education. And I talk about my first deal frequently. Like, it was not a home run deal. Now, if I would have held on to it and sold it just about now, it would have been. But, it's like, it was not my home run, biggest cash in my pocket type deal, but I consider it my best deal because it was the deal that got me started. So you got the first one. You said you kind of lost out on the second one, but ultimately came back and bought it. So could you talk about that briefly? Like, how did that work?
So like I said before, I lost out in New York a bunch of times, went to New Hampshire. The market was like unbelievable there. So I stumbled on Connecticut. I bought my first place. Well, I'm looking through the Zillow. I find this 3-plex, beautiful place right across the street from, and it's the nicest place I own right now. Right across the street from the hospital. Is a three family, has a 2-car garage. It's 4-bedroom on the bottom, 3-bedroom in the second story, and a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor. I spoke to the real estate agent. She called me back within hours. Sorry, there's deals, deals are flying. You know what I mean? There's someone on the table, they're in contract. And, I had lost out on the deal here in New York because, it was subject to an inspection. So I learned from that. And, people, things were moving so fast, and deals were flying, and people was like, oh, cash and this, and $20,000-$30,000 over asking. I learned that, it has to be the way it has to, it has to be, I felt at the time, logical to just say without, an inspection. So that's what happened with the 4-plex. Granted, if I did, there would, it's like almost fear mongering into getting an inspection and all these problems. I mean, it's a house at the end of the day. Houses get old. You got to fix stuff.
It's a
you know what I
box.
mean? Yeah. I mean, that's,
some are big, some are little, some are pretty, some are not.
Some make money, some don't, So, I went into this 4-plex, right? I got it right on the market. I was there in Connecticut, like the day after it went on the market. And I put in, they were asking $425 for it. I said 400. no inspections. I knew it needed stuff. I knew, but I just wanted that first deal. I was so hungry at that point. I didn't care. I really didn't care. So I was like, I don't care. So, you know, it definitely was like someone bought it. They started fixing it up, all new like heating system, new roof. So there was stuff done there. So I was like, all right, it's a good start, and I could optimize, the garage space where I was making $400 more a month, and I could up the rents because the rents were low. I have
What
a whole
about the
nother,
garage? Were you were renting the garage separate from the units?
yeah. So it's a detached 2-car garage.
Nice.
And it, yeah. So, and the person that owned it previous wasn't doing anything with them. You know what I mean? So that's where like I got in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm going to rent the garages out. People need to store stuff. And,
Savage.
yeah, well, I mean,
I can
so
tell you,
like,
I like renting the garage thing. I can tell you that right now.
oh, it's so much cleaner and easier because you don't have to worry about someone being loud. You don't have to worry about a hot water heater. I mean, I know you're getting into the which we call it, the storage stuff now. I saw you bought one, right? So I it's unfortunately a lot of the bigger companies have been getting into that stuff. But that's what I look for ad values now when I look for stuff. But I know I always kind of run my brain's all over the place. But the question
Welcome to
you
the
asked
club.
about the deal, right? The deal I got. So I lost out on that deal. I meet with this lady, this real estate agent, because she got back to me. It ended up turning out she had been a cop for like 10 or 12 years and just didn't want to do it anymore. She was really making a lot of money in real estate. So I was like, oh man, this is, we had a lot in common, So I get on the ferry, I walk onto the ferry, we line it up. I look at like 5 or 6 different places, and, I just made an offer on this one because it was, what I wanted. I ran the numbers, and I'm like, man, this thing really, cranks out. So, over the weekend, best and final on a Sunday, they came back to us. They got an extra $5,000 out of me. So I ended up 405, which at the end of the day is, pennies on the dollar over 30 years. And, the rest is history, which the history part is, the person that owned that initial threeplex is an older gentleman. Or he had his own insurance company, and he just buys and sells real estate all the time now. And he's been, the best, best part of like going through this is being able to have that person where you can call up. And also he's getting older and he wants to sell stuff to me. So a lot of owner finance, stuff like that. So that's that. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be, so far ahead. So,
Was this the mentor you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you, and maybe I missed this part, how did you originally kind of get connected with him? Because I think a lot of times people are always like, oh, hey, can I take you out to lunch? Can I get you a cup of coffee? Like, I want to pick your brain. And while like I am a big fan of that, like we've said a couple times now, like time is something that binds us all equally. And at the end of the day, like even if you get like the foo coffee and it's $10, like $10 for an hour and a half, I'm all about helping, but like there's only so much time in a day, right? How did you basically appeal to this gentleman or lady, or did they reach out to you? Like, how did basically you foster that mentorship or friendship?
I mean, honestly, I got my mind right prior um to meeting him and, doing all this stuff. Like, I was just riding my bike all the time. I got heavy into reading books. I set goals for myself. I mean, and when I couldn't actually hold a physical, tangible book, I was listening to books on. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the app Libby. I think we talked about this, Mike, about the free. You could get a library card, and you download this app. You have to have a current library card, and you can listen to audiobooks. And I started listening to podcasts. I mean, let's face it, when you're doing a 16-hour tour, what do you got to do? You can either just look on your phone and scroll through, those easy dopamine hits for 20, 30 seconds, or like, I want to learn something. I want to grow. I want to become, this person that I've dreamed about. I mean, you really got to put it in, implement it. So I mean, I'll re-listen to books now, just driving in the car, because, obviously there's some instances where you can't do that, but, my downtime, that's what I'm doing, just listening and trying to learn and trying to grow. So, I just set myself up to be in that position. You know what I mean? You can't wait for somebody to come knocking at your door and be like, hey, here's this opportunity on a silver platter. You got to go out there and you got to go get it, really. And that's what I did, and, once you're 75 and, you're a multimillionaire and you buy and sell real estate all the time, you can see the value in someone. So, and on the flip side of that is like, being in an FTO, which we referenced earlier, it's like the value you get from like trying to teach someone, how life really works, or stuff you've been through, and just like putting that out there in the universe. Like if you put good stuff out there, it's going to come back to you. It has to. I mean,
And that's the thing too, like you went out there, like you said, you had your mind right. So when that opportunity presented itself, you were ready to roll and take advantage of it. Whereas a lot of people kind of put everything off until, oh, when I get my finances right, when I have this right, when I do this, then I'll start to study. And it's like, no. And you just gave a free tip. Go, if it's free to listen to these books, go listen to the books. I mean, I've been off now for like 18 months, but I was laughing because my Audible credits right now are going to expire. But I literally would listen to 5-6 books a month in addition to reading on the way, because my commute was 57 miles each way. So I knew, like, okay, I have this time. I can listen to music. I can chill out. I can do whatever and not get anything out of it, or this is my classroom time. And it helped immensely. And when you were talking about that, Kobe Bryant was talking about this, how he would get just a little bit more practicing than everybody every single day. And by the time he said he had a few years in the league, he knew that nobody could ever catch him because he was so far ahead on the practice. And it's the same thing for this. You're now acquiring properties. So the education piece is a lot more, I think it's easier at that point because you're doing it. Now you want to learn even more than you originally did because you know you're going to put it into use. So I applaud you for that too. And the mentor you said was actually the owner of the triplex that you ended up buying, correct? Even better.
Yeah. So that's how we got hooked up together, because the deal fell through. They had an inspection on the place, and there was everyone can find something wrong with something. You know what I mean? Everyone has an opinion, and if you can either be an optimist or a pessimist. And I'm in the realm of like, I'm optimistic about everything. You know what I mean? You have to be, because if you're a pessimist all the time, you're just going to be in this same spot, just held there, and not see the good in whatever you're doing. So, one door closes, another door opens up, and you can't dwell on it. You just got to keep moving.
So now that you've got those 14 units, kind of what are you working on now? Do you have anything under contract? Are you actively looking? Are you kind of taking a tactical pause?
Well, so initially, just because he wanted to, I got owner finance, 1 year balloon payment. And this was like, I'm saying this stuff, and people that haven't really been through it or know about it, it's like, there's not much, people can talk about it, but for me, going through it, that's how I learned, not reading a book or something. I mean, I can take tangible stuff from reading a book, but actually going through the process for me was, doing this owner finance stuff. And it really, it excelled for me when I was in it. I learned about it. And now I'll go on listings and I'll call the real estate agent, or I'll look for sale by owner stuff, and just call people all the time. Like, hey, listen, you want to do owner finance? What's the story? And that's how you network. So I had a 1 year balloon payment. I bought threeplex in October of last year. That was this place. The deal fell through, and it was just dragging on for like 3 or 4 months. I bought the first fourplex in July of 2021, and this threeplex came up, and I was like, hey, listen, screw it. I'm going to maximize my deferred comp. In New York, my 457B, you could take a loan out on your 457B, and you're paying yourself back the interest. I know probably not a lot of people know about this. So, as I alluded to before, I've had, quite a bit of time on the job. So I've been putting money away each paycheck, and try to save, on paying taxes, because 900 hours of overtime, so on and so forth. So I took the maximum amount out. $50,000 was the down payment on the threeplex. It's a 4-year loan at 4.5%, but the 4.5% I'm paying myself back. So it's going, I borrowed it from my deferred comp, and I'm paying myself back the interest. So I'm quintessentially acting like my own bank.
5%, right? Is that what you said? 4.95?
4.5. Yeah.
Okay, 4.5% you're paying yourself back, which right now in the market you'd be getting like negative 24.5%. So still a win, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the way I looked at it, So that was the down payment for that place. And the money way I figured it out was like, all right, the fourplex that I bought, I can have one of the tenants. I set it up where she direct deposits right into my account. And when the deferred comp, it comes and they say, listen, you got to pay us $926 a month. That rent pays that deferred comp loan. And then I had this owner finance mortgage, which, if the numbers work out, it was, I think that one was like, the mortgage was like $1,500 a month. So, I was cash flowing on that place, and still am, and like I said before, it all comes down to the numbers, really.
Well, so you said 457 and 457B. Could you just kind of like touch on some of that for the folks that maybe that just graduated recruit school or the training academy?
Yeah.
Like what is a 457? And like, obviously we just talked about one of the benefits, but like, can you just kind of give a quick overview of that?
So 457B, and I'm not, don't quote me on a lot of stuff. I'll give a broad overview. It's, you can they set it up where we can allocate a percentage of money, which when you get paid, I get paid bi-weekly. You can say, all right, I want 2 or 3, whatever percent, it has to be over 1% towards a retirement. This is separate from your pension. So I got into it early. I started putting money into it right when I started in 2004. And, it puts it into mutual funds. And the mutual funds over time grow. And, it's also a tax haven too, because you can allocate or put money in in New York, it's $20,500 a year. So, so I put money towards that, and it grows and grows and grows. And there's, if you're in the academy or you just got out of the academy, for me, they came and spoke to us and provided us these avenues or havens to say, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there. Or, even if they don't, it's a good idea to get something set up like a Roth IRA to just, you got to allocate money into, just save a little bit. And anyone can go spend money, but the real wealth is when you save money, and that's, that was a tip from my mentor. So, and anybody can spend money. I can go buy whatever I want, but, it's saving it. That's the hard part,
And that's what separates people, right? I mean, you start saving, it's going to snowball into more funds for you to invest more, which in turn is going to create more positive cash flow, which is going to generate more money. And it's just this cycle of, it's all compounding. And it's hard, especially a lot of us who have shift work, because it's like, I can go blow all my money this month, go sign up for overtime next month, and it's all paid for, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of what do you want to do? And like you mentioned, once you realize you're trading your time for an hourly wage, there's a certain ceiling at that point. And then there's also the toll on your body, your mind for working that many extra overtime hours each year. And so it sounds like your mentor, same thing, right? Hey, if you can learn how to say this, it's going to mushroom big time. And for me, before I got through 2007, 8, 9, I was not very good at savings. That was the eye opener for me. So now I'm squirreling everything away. And each month I'm like, oh man, it's coming back even more. And I realize it. And now I'm caught up on that. Like, I don't really want to spend it unless I have to. Although I would like a nice new truck, but.
But you're just purchasing ammunition and gold bullion. So Matt, where you picked up, 14 units in the last 2 years, like you got 18 years on the job. Where do you see the next couple of years going? Like, what is your plans moving forward?
Well, I got a lot of naysayers. I'd love to, I have a 25-year retirement. I'd love, and my goal is to create enough passive income where I could kind of just say, I have my own problems. I don't want to deal with everybody else's problems. And that was a big starting factor in this thing, So, I'd really like to, although I love it and I'll miss it, just helping people. That was the biggest thing, is being a police officer, just to help people. And, you got to set your goals high. I'm a firm believer in, if you aim high, even if you don't hit that mark, even if you get close to it, it's better than where you're at now. So, the possibilities are endless for me. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. So you anticipate purchasing more units and just continuing absolutely down that road?
Oh yeah, no doubt. He's actually my mentor. I've kind of taken over the reins for him, and he has stuff he doesn't even know about, or like you alluded to, like he hasn't seen or been in. It's all a numbers game, and just to have that insight and that foresight, it's it's amazing to to kind of level up and see that. So he's got stuff in the pipeline for me that he just doesn't want to deal with the day to day, and
but if you can be somebody's, basically this gentleman, if he's ready to make his exit, if you can basically take the reins and be his integrator, like that can exponentially catapult you to where you want to be even faster. And there's value to him, there's value to you. Like, it could save you years and years of just hammering away, of riding the ferry and driving contracts and all that stuff, and that's what's kind of cool about this business. Like, I think a lot of people, like, they still call me slumlord. I don't care anymore. Like, it doesn't bother me. But it's one of those, like, I think investors, and some rightfully so, get a bad rap. It's like the slimy used car salesman. Apologies to all the good used car salesmen out there. Like, you get that bad rep that somebody's got to lose for you to win. And like, I don't think that's true. But I don't need to try and convince other people of that anymore. Like, this dude could win. You could win. The people that are living in his buildings could win. And it's just like, somebody doesn't necessarily have to lose for everybody to kind of like get ahead in this game, if you want to call it that. And that's what's kind of cool. Like, I sit there and just see some of these dudes that have just worked a little bit. And Tyler, I forget who you just said, Kobe, like a little extra practice, a little extra work, a couple extra moves every year, compounded over time, just freaking moves the needle so much. And like, eventually he's kind of like had his run. He wants to pass it on to you, and he wants to help somebody. And it's like, wow, I just have to be like a good person that's going to do what I say. And like, this dude's going to be happy to basically pour into me, and I'm going to friggin' move light years ahead. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So you said 25-year retirement. Is that what you said, or 20?
Yeah. 25.
So you're going to see that through. You got what, 5, 6, 7 years?
7 years. We'll see what happens. And like I said, the possibilities are endless. You never know.
Yeah.
So
My hat's off to the guys and girls in law enforcement, because every time, like, actually we had a stabbing at work the other day, and the cops stopped by the firehouse afterwards looking for something from the scene. And they were just saying like how they can't get anybody to even take the test. It's just friggin' horrible. Like the one local law enforcement, they had one person sit for the exam. Like he's like, I don't know how any of these people are passing a psychological exam. Anybody that wants to be in law enforcement right now is crazy. And I'm just like, man, that's sad. Like everybody, this isn't meant to be political, but like everybody wants to sit there and, F the police. Well, it's kind of scary to think about a world without any law enforcement. So careful what you wish for out there, people. Probably going to get banned from Facebook now. Great. But well, Matt, we got just a couple minutes left. Like, I'm sure we can get banned even some more, but is there anything you want to say? Like, we usually have a couple questions, but Aaron, we got the 25% off Black Friday sale today. He's gone. So is there anything like you want to kind of touch on before we wrap this up?
No, just that, I mean, for the people out there that are looking to go into, civil service and stuff, I mean, it'll pay the bills. You're going to have a steady income, but, to take that next step or the next level is like, all right, once you get good at it and you are performing at a high level, like look to other things, don't look to, go to the bar, go, cause there's a stigmatism with, police, fire is like alcohol. I mean, it's put me in bad spots before, and I don't drink anymore. I mean, it's just a poison, and I'd rather go for a walk, read a book. I'm not saying that I won't have a drink, but not overindulge. And I think a lot of people deal with their problems by reaching for something or having a vice like that. I mean, my vice now is like trying to work a deal and work the numbers and stuff. You know what I mean?
A little bit healthier.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Just to,
What if I try and work the deal while having a beer? Is that frowned upon in this establishment? No, I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
But I agree. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys at work that, I mean, that stuff, it leads you down the wrong path. And, alcohol's a depressant, or, a lot of other things. But, this is a tough field we all work in, and you got to be optimistic. That's really what it comes down to for me,
Yeah,
nice.
Agreed. Make it your reason or make it your excuse, you pick,
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Like, well, first off, like, again, I know I said it earlier, like just awesome work, like 14 units in 2 years, especially given the market, like that's no joke. Like that's putting in some work. So hats off to you on that, man. And, I don't have anything else, but Tyler, if you want to wrap it up, this will be show 40. So we've almost made it a year. We have 12 more shows.
12 more shows. We'll
trying to get 3 derelicts to carry this thing on like for 52 weeks in a row. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but thanks for everybody for bearing with us. So
no, I don't have anything else, Matt. Like Mike said, thanks for hopping on with us today. I think again, I agree with him. 14 units in that shorter period is amazing, especially in the market. So with that, everybody, this is episode 40 with Matt, and we will see you on the next one.
See you guys.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.